I am making a new cheese today. I'm calling it Fire and Smoke or Dragon's Milk Cheese or Fiery Dragon's Milk Cheese. Do you remember the Toscano Pepato I made that had ancho chilies in it and black peppercorns? Well, I am doing this one, same thing, but I am adding ancho chilies, red pepper flakes, black peppercorns, and then I am going to soak the curd before it goes into the press in dragon's milk ale. And then maybe I'll smoke it too. There are a couple things I'm concerned with. Number one, I don't know if you remember, but the cheesecloth stuck to the cheese. Every time it always tears off. So I have to be careful to keep the cheese warm by putting it in the oven and also by flipping it regularly so it doesn't have time to stick to the cheesecloth. That's one concern. Number two, soaking it in the beer is going to drop the temperature, and it's also going to make the curds difficult to press together. So I am going to warm the beer a little bit, and hopefully that'll keep it like more malleable. Oh, and number three, when I'm adding more ancho chilies, I added more this last time, and the cheese was crumblier, I think because there's so many chilies in it. I'm still going to do a bunch of chilies. I'm just going to hopefully somehow keep it in together. Let's do it. This is the recipe. Keep it up here so I don't have to keep looking other places. 8 gallons of milk right here. It's at 98 degrees, already heated it up. And now it calls for 2 cultures, either MA11, which is the mesophilic culture, so buttermilk, clabber, any of that. I'm going to use clabber, and it calls for yogurt. So I am also going to do yogurt because that's what it says to do. Recently, my clabber has been a little bit fruity smelling. And then when I scoop into it, it starts smelling more buttery, especially if I put it in the fridge and then open it the next day, it smells buttery. I don't know what that's about. I'm pretending it's normal. My cheeses have all been turning out normal because I'm using it. It's just not as sweet and buttery as it used to be. For the yogurt, it's 1/4 cup per gallon of milk. 8 gallons of milk should be 2 cups, but I'm also doing clabber, and clabber is both mesophilic and thermophilic, so I'm just adding a little bit of this, maybe a cup. I add a little bit of milk to the yogurt just so it whisks in easier. This is gonna be a full cheese. Maybe I got a little bit greedy adding too much milk to this. All right, this is gonna ripen for 1 hour. Here are the peppers that I'm gonna be using. The black peppercorns, the chili flakes, and then the ancho chilies. I'm gonna use all of these ancho chilies, take out most of the seeds, but some of the seeds will be in it. Doesn't really matter, I don't think. These will get chopped up, and I'm gonna simmer them in this kettle by themselves. And then I'm going to take these and simmer them in the other kettle by themselves. I do wanna sterilize them, just bring them to temperature so that everything is killed off, because these are not brand new bottles, so they may have been contaminated, just to be on the safe side. So 1 tablespoon of red pepper flakes, I'm making a little bit rounded, and then 1 tablespoon of black pepper, also a little bit rounded. I am going to just chop this up ever so slightly. As the whole process happens, they soften, so if you get a whole peppercorn, it doesn't break your teeth. I like a little bit of a brokenness so that it gets more through the cheese and it also releases more of the flavor. There we go. Now you can see, rough chop. So that all goes in there. The cheese I made a couple weeks ago that was like this, totally fine, it looked gorgeous until it went in the brine. And then in the brine it developed cracks. And I think the cracks are because the ancho chilies swelled up more perhaps, or took on more of the salt and kind of split the curd a little bit. I don't know, that's just my theory. What I'm doing this time is I'm going to only add, this might not work, I don't even know. I'm just winging it. I'm going to only add the pepper flakes to all the cheese, and then I'm going to take some of that out, and I'm going to use that to form the sides and the bottom and the top, and I'm going to mix the ancho chilies into the middle part more. Some of it will be on the edge. I'm not going to be too picky, but I just don't want a ton of ancho chilies hanging out of the cheese, soaking up all that brine. These smell so nice and smoky. I love it. Last time I made this Toscano Pepato and used the ancho chilies, people thought they were sun-dried tomatoes. So these aren't totally hot peppery. They feel more like a vegetable. There's those two, and I'm just gonna add some water to them. Just enough to cover. I'm gonna simmer them and strain them. You turn that water off. All right, this is simmering. Just wanna bring it to a boil to kill off anything. I could add this water to the cheese, but I haven't noticed that that actually makes it any flavor worth noticing, so I'm not doing that. Oh my goodness, that's spicy. This one is ready. They've all puffed up because they've rehydrated. So I'll just keep these two right here until later in the day when it's time.
I can't breathe.
It's 1 teaspoon of rennet. Whoa! That's a little bit more than a teaspoon, that's fine. A little bit of water to dilute it. This is full. I'm gonna totally mess up my stove here, but you know what? It washes. Stir the rennet in for no more than 30 to 45 seconds. And now this sits for 20 to 30 minutes. It's not very long. This milk is at a higher temperature at 98 degrees. It's cultured for an hour. Theoretically, even though it's not very much rennet, it should set up fairly quickly. So we'll set the timer for 30 and see. And this is gonna seal shut, just watch. We're gonna try to break the lid off. Ready? Oh my goodness, it's like suctioned on. Oh, there we go. I think it's set. I love it. First thing to do is cut this into like 3/4 inch columns, letting it rest for 5 minutes, and then cutting it with the whisk. I'm gonna quick try to scoop some of this out. So the curds are right there, right below the surface, but if I can just get off a few cups of milk, it will help. This is the balloon whisk that I like to use. A lot of these cubes are slipping away from me. As I stir it, I'll break it up more. So this is gonna rest for 5 minutes and then we start cooking it. All right, so now we are going to heat up this curd to 118 degrees. Then once that's there, cut the heat, stir it for another 20 minutes or so. I may do this less depending on how it feels. Before I do anything, I'm gonna take off some more of this whey so that I don't splash it everywhere more than I already have. Break up some of the pieces in here that are still gonna be too large. You know, some people get all concerned with cutting the curds into exactly the same size. That could be right, but I don't do it. And I've seen a lot of other cheesemakers who just mush it up, mash it almost. I'm not doing that. I just don't think it needs to be as perfect as people think it needs to be. I might be wrong though. Yeah, these curds are not all even. As you can see, like right there, there's some bigger ones, but it's just like a quick ruffle and it breaks apart. I'm gonna go ahead and start cooking this on low heat till we get to 118. I turned the heat on a little bit higher because I'm only at about 98 degrees. The yogurt and the clabber dropped it, I think, and it was sitting here for a while. So I'm probably gonna keep the heat a little higher and try to keep this going rather briskly because I have another 18 degrees to raise this. Ooh, getting hot on the bottom there. Gotta stay with it if I have the heat turned up, otherwise it starts to knit on the bottom. They're just juicy. They're shiny, they're not matte. They haven't rubbered up yet. They are still juicy and soft. And yeah, I'm at about 101, 102-ish in here. And I'm gonna turn the heat back on a little bit higher than low because I want it to keep moving up pretty quick. I've cranked the heat up a good bit because it was taking a long time. These curds are juicy. They still feel a little bit wet to me. They're a little bit squeaky, but they're not rubbery. Around the edge, they're getting a little bit, but the inside is still wet. Let me break it open, they're still way inside. These need to just cook a little bit more. I guess I should do the squeeze test. Yeah, see, they knit together very quickly if they're left alone. So I'm gonna take some and, that's too many, there, and squeeze them. They're moving a little bit, splooshing out a little bit, which I think is a sign that they're too juicy, but they are sticking together. And then, I guess crumbling apart, fine. So I'm gonna let these cook for, I'm gonna say maybe 10 minutes. And I'm stirring rather briskly because I don't want them to settle. These are beginning to feel firmer, squidgier. There's still some wetness, but not much. They're smaller. Let's do a squeeze test. So squeeze, open, it's holding together and it crumbles apart easier than it did before. Let's taste a wetter one that's juicier. I do taste some whey in there, but remember the next few steps is gonna sit for a little bit in the whey. And then I'm going to be adding the warm beer. So that's also going to be sitting, and then I'm going to be stirring in other things. It's going to get milled and handled, and I think it'll work its way out. But let's try some of these other ones that are a little bit drier. They get more matte. They have a little bit more of a firmer texture on the outside. Do you hear that? They're squeaking. I do not want to overcook these. I tend to have trouble overcooking thermophilic cheeses, so I'm going to not do that. What I'm going to do is let this curd sit for the next 5 minutes, and then we'll pour off the whey and add the warm beer. Dragon's Milk beer, it's 11% ABV. It's a bourbon barrel aged stout. a liter of it. I should actually probably have 2 liters just because this is a big cheese, but I don't. This is kind of expensive. Maybe like $7 or $11. See how Dragon's Milk beer tastes. Oh, it's strong. Caramelly. It has a burn, like a really strong malt flavor, like horehound. There's almost a horehound flavor to it, like those old-fashioned candies. And molasses and burnt things. I don't know if I'm selling this or not, but you know, Smoke and Fire Dragon's Milk cheese, so here we go. Just still gets warm. It's hotter than normal.
Hot?
Mm-hmm. Stop, 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 stop. Not too fast. I'm afraid you're going to tilt too much
I'm not
up.
going to tilt it too much. I've never done that.
Stop.
It's
Stop.
not going to fall
That's
out.
good. It looks smaller than I thought it was going to be. Okay, stop. I just want a little bit in there. I'm trying to figure out a way to keep the curds still warm while I soak them in the beer. So I just got this tub and it fits directly into my pot. And in the bottom of this, I just have some whey, which I'm going to put back over the stove once I transfer the curds in and turn it on low just to keep it warm. I'm very excited by my brilliance. So here's the warm beer. I'm going to scrunch this up. Dump in beer. It's done. I did it. Now we can't go back. It smells very strong. Bitter and almost chocolatey. 1 liter was good enough, I think. Kind of milled it up. It's still some bigger chunks in here just because it's that way. So the plan is to soak this for about 30 to 45 minutes, stirring it every 15 or so just to make sure it's all in there. Oh, that smells so beery. It also smells good. It's feeling a little firmer. The curds are like more rubbery. Mild caramely flavor. It doesn't taste boozy. Now I have to strain off this beer and add the spices. And let me think how I'm going to do this. I bet the pigs are going to like that way. I'm going to add all the spices except for the ancho chilies to this. This is actually kind of cool because you can see inside. So here's my little chili pepper thingy-mabobs. Dump them in. Oh, it's nice and warm. Not very hot. There's a little bit of heat. A little bit caramelly. Not anything really strong. It's fine. I'm doing hot water. Goodness, I got some pepper in my throat. And then I'm going to spray this with the vinegar to make it more acidic to match the cheese so it doesn't stick to the cloth. And this gets wrung out. I'm not putting my collar in because I don't think this is going to be a very full cheese. Now, I'm going to put a little bit of this in the bottom. I don't know how well this is going to work because it's not a very big cheese. Kind of making a little wall. And then I'm putting some of this curd aside for the tops inside. And then in this remaining part, I'm going to add all these luscious ancho chili. This gets mushed around. I'm going to try to just drop these mostly into the middle. We can reduce some of the peppers from getting the sides, so we'll be doing good. Some of these curds, I'm going to go around the edges a little bit more, make a little bit of a wall, pile up more of these in the middle. Okay, maybe this is going to be a tall cheese. Did I misjudge it again? I've never been this careful with filling a mold. And I'm going to try to get these on top, more or less. Create a little bit of a buffer. So some of the anchos will show through, but the majority, I think I got tucked in the middle. That's exciting. This has to be pressed at low pressure. It says about 10 pounds. I'm doing about 20, maybe a little bit more. For an hour, I'm going to flip it every 30 minutes. The thing that needs to happen though is this has to stay warm. So I'm going to put this in the oven and turn the oven to warm. Come on. You can see the heat down below. Kind of freaky, huh? I'll set the timer 30 minutes and then we'll flip this. I turned this down. It had been on keep warm, but I felt like that was too hot, so I turned it down to bread proof, and that feels better. It's heavy. Not stick to the cloth, hopefully. Does a little bit. See how that was doing it right there? It's so minor. I'm not sure why. Yeah, see? It's tearing that little bit there. This cheese just gives me fits, but it's not nearly as bad as it was last time. See right there again? It's tearing off a little bit. Okay. It's not bad, not bad. And smush those little pieces back into their little holes. It'll get better. See those lumpinesses around there? Hopefully that'll just press in as we go. I'm gonna do this a little bit harder because I want it to press well. So that's 40, 50 pounds. Ooh, I got some heat in that one. See? This cheese is just weird that way. See, it's already cracking right there. What the heck? So now the question is, do I leave this for half hour or an hour? Last time I did not put it in the oven and I had a terrible time with it sticking. So maybe the higher temperature keeps it from sticking? I don't know. Let's go 45 minutes. This is actually feeling a little bit cool. So I'm gonna turn it to keep warm for just a minute and give it 2 minutes, and then I'll turn it back to bread proof because I feel like it needs a little bit more heat. Let's see if we got a stickaroo. Yeah, it is. Maybe there's just nothing to be done for it. I don't know. Oh, see? And this is totally gonna crack in the brine too, I can tell. What should I do? Maybe I just shouldn't use a cloth. Should I press it? Would it come out? Oh, this is miserable. Oh guys, this is gonna be so bad. Oh, I'm gonna cry. I am filled with rage. I'm gonna throw glass. The cracks are still there, and it's not because it's in the brine. Oh, what am I gonna do? It's not the beer, because last time I made this cheese, I did not do beer. I don't think it's the high temperature because I just did Asiago, which is really high temp, and there's no sticking. I'm gonna do some research, hang on. I just read something and it said, the cheese is sticking to the cheesecloth because you, my dear, did not change the cheesecloth every time like they told you to. I don't think they told me to though, hang on. I followed instructions. It did not say to change the cheesecloth. It just said to flip it and rewrap it, which I've been doing. I'm gonna get a new cheesecloth. I'm gonna see if that helps. We're just gonna keep going. But this is totally gonna burst open in the brine, which is okay, I guess, because it's gonna be backpacked. Or maybe I should dry salt it. I don't wanna dry salt it. Maybe I will though. Don't know. Let's get a new cloth. Hot water. Do I do vinegar or not? Maybe vinegar is the problem. I don't think it's the problem. Go do some vinegar. No, it's just splitting right there. Do you see that? It just like tore up. Why is this doing it? Wrapping this up and we're popping it back in the oven. We'll do another 45 minutes and hopefully I will not contaminate this cloth too because this one is now a booger to clean up. Oh, see, it's already splooching. It is not holding its shape. Irritation abounds. This is called a fire and smoke cheese because the fire and smoke is coming up my ears. Oh my word, y'all. A clean cheesecloth makes all the freaking difference in the world. Change your cheesecloths. Look at that. Seamless. I feel like an absolute idiot. Gonna let this keep going in the oven on the bread proof setting until it's time to turn the oven on to make Friday night pizza. Move your butt. Hey, move. So I'm supposed to take this, I'm gonna flip it one more time, put it back in the mold, and then it sits in the mold, not pressing overnight. It's not sticking, and it looks nice, but it is cracking right there. Oh, look at it crack. Oh my goodness, what the heck? See that? Why is it doing that? But it's beautiful. I love the colors, the red flecks and the browns. This is just sitting at room temperature till tomorrow morning. In the middle of the night, I decided that I am not going to brine this cheese. I made this cheese, or a similar version of it, several weeks ago, and when I brined it, it cracked, and all the brown leached out from the ancho chilies and the peppers into my brine. I just made a fresh brine because of that, and I do not feel like doing a new brine. Plus, I know this is gonna crack. It just will. So I'm going to dry salt this cheese, and I'm going to leave it in the mold to dry salt it, because it has a tendency to crack, I guess, and this makes me feel a little bit more like it's gonna get in there, all this salt, and it's gonna hold it together, and it's gonna do its thing. So we're gonna figure out the salt, but first I'm gonna do an experiment with dry salting. Typically it's 3% salt for a cheese. The other way to think of it is 1 tablespoon per gallon of milk. I used 8 gallons of milk. So let's see how many grams of salt is 8 tablespoons. Half cup of salt, that is 108 grams of salt. Okay, so this cheese, see how much it weighs. It smells like beer, as I guess it should. Well, Well, this will be fun. Watch the whole cheese split in half. This is gonna be great. If y'all are sitting and watching this in judgment, just make your own cheese. Come on, it won't work. I made a mistake. Put it back in without the cloth. I don't know. It's coming. Half of it! Damn it! Ah! No. This is gonna be good. Okay, we're just gonna carry on. Okay, we're gonna call this the drunk cheese, and this is what happens if you drink. You fall apart, says the woman who makes mead. Stop laughing at me. Damn it.
You pressed it in there?
No, I did not press it in here. I just set it in here overnight.
Upside down, let gravity do its thing.
Gravity is definitely not doing its thing. I can feel it, like it's stuck to the bottom. Oh, it makes me so mad. You want to hear the cheese fall apart more? You think I'm overreacting slightly.
Sometimes cheeses fail. Today's an example.
Would heat work? Heat would make it expand. I was having so much fun yesterday too.
As you can see, it dropping a little bit.
Well, I'm gonna get a cheesecloth. If it's already separated from the body, you might as well scrape it up with a spatula.
Well, now you know what the inside looks like.
I knew what the inside looked like. So you don't want to put a cheese back in a mold without a cloth. Mistakes were made. That is an understatement. Let's weigh it. I'm still on a mission to figure out salt because I'm definitely not braining this mess. 3,444 grams. Let's change that to pounds just so I can see. 7.59 pounds. So yeah, it should be 8 tablespoons of salt. 3,444 times 0.03, which should give you the exact grams of salt. 103 grams of salt. And I said 105. We're spot on. It's a tablespoon of salt per gallon. I'm going to dump the salt in this and repackage the cheese. How do you even put this in? This part looks great. Okay, so there's a bunch of salt in the bottom there. I'm actually going to put salt in the middle. And then little fragmented pieces. I'm going to try to make a cap. So much for keeping my ancho cap clean. That's just laughable. And then I'm going to put the rest of the salt in here. I feel like I should have put more in the middle. But it should work its way in, right? If it sits there long enough, let's just say yes. If you can't laugh, what have you got? Nothing. This is going to get pressed like I'm killing it. As hard as you can. Salting it now. I'd tell you what's going to happen next, but I've given up. I have no idea what's going to happen next. I don't even want to film this, but I'm going to because I'm honest and loyal and faithful, and you're welcome. I think it might have stuck to the cloth. I'm just kind of terrified and miserable and a wretch. It's crunchy from the salt. Just go, sit still and stop falling apart. Such bad manners. This cheese is like a drunk dinner guest. I'm gonna put a little bit more salt on top. I'm gonna put some around the side. It's gonna stick to the fabric and then stick to the cheese. Just, you know, salt it to death. Do you hear that? All that salt in the bottom. That wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Look at all this salt. So I'm going to keep that there. There's a bunch of whey in here. I think a bunch of salt has gone into the cloth, perhaps. So let this press. Actually, I'm just going to stick this in a backpack bag because I know from that rosemary asiago I made that I can dry salt a cheese in the bag and the salt will still absorb. And this has already absorbed most of the salt. So I'm just going to crust it up good and then put it in the bag and let it age because I don't want to mess with this anymore. I'm sick of it. Yay. Oh shoot, am I going to have to cut this in half? I don't want to do that. Will you come hold it at least so that it doesn't fall apart completely? So just hold it right like that, so I'm not going to chop your hands. Oh,
Just cut and be done with it. I don't know why you went this direction.
Okay, let gently. Oh, it's pretty. Look at that. It's pretty. Put it. Now hold the bag open for me. Throw in some more salt just for good measure. I'm double sealing this cheese because it's a tricky one. Shooting out all the juice right there from the peppers. See, that's pretty. That's what I wanted the whole thing to be like, but alas, alack. Today's the day. I'm going to taste this fire and smoke cheese. I'm a little bit leery of this cheese. I think I'm probably not going to like it. So let's see. It smells good. Smoky and robust. Meaty is not the right word, but it has more of a depth of flavor, more of a umami. Oh man. Oh! I only want to get out half of the cheese because I might put it back in the bag, and if the bag still has a good seal, I don't want to waste it. There we go. It looks caramelly. What? It looks really good. I think it looks great. I'm impressed with the look and the feel. It feels a little bit elasticy, not hard, not dry. It's delicious. Hang on, hang on. I'm just getting the curd part. It's salty, mild, has a really nice chew. Mouthfeel. It's not cheddary. It's more like a Toscano Pepato or more like a provolone. Not provolone, but it has more of that give, that chewiness to it. Getting some pepper, some ancho. Oh, that's gorgeous. That is so gorgeous. It's sexy. Like this is a sexy, masculine. This is a hunk of cheese. It tastes tomatoey. There's not much there's not much spice. Like it's not hot, but it definitely has a warmth to it. It's almost like reminds me of like sitting by a fire. It's a warm, rounded, cozy. It's a cozy cheese. It's a sexy cheese. And I'm getting a lot of cheese without peppers in it, without anchos, so it doesn't feel like I overdid it with the fillings, with the spices and stuff. The ratio feels correct. I don't know what to do with this because if this cheese is this good and I went through this much trouble to make it, I don't even know what to tell you. Like, what do I recommend? I got more heat in that bite. Ooh, lovely. There's a little bit of a graininess to the cheese paste itself, which I've had that issue before and I'm not sure why. What do they add to cheeses, industrial cheeses, that makes them so creamy? They've got to be adding something, right? I don't know. Something to research, I guess. That's what it looks like. See, that's still chewy, but it's not wet or spongy. It's a really good chew of the fruit in comparison to the cheese, and it adds a warmth to it. It's really the anchos. The anchos are amazing. I feel like I hunted this, like it's a wild piece of meat. Oh, and about the dragon's milk, I taste it, but it's not boozy. I also have here this Toscano Pepato that I made a week before the other one that does not have the ale in it. Besides that, it's pretty much the same. So I'm going to try this one and see if, like, what a difference the ale makes. This one has a little bit more moisture in the bag. It doesn't smell quite as rich as the other one. Oh, geez. Using the knife as a lever, just kind of going in. There we go. So this one is not as dark. Here, let's compare them side by side. This one is more pinkish almost, and this is a more brown. This one feels a little bit drier. This one looks a little bit more rubbery. If you look up close, you can see how that one just is a little bit more smooth looking. Like right there, you can see a little smooth. And then this one looks a little bit drier to me, not quite as creamy. It's delicious and it's very different. I shouldn't say very. I mean, they have some of the same ingredients. This is a little bit drier, a little bit more crumbly, but I don't think it's dry. I think it's just drier. This one feels like it crumbles a little bit more like a cheddar. See a little piece and you break it and it just breaks like that. So it's a little bit more cheddary. And this one also breaks, but it has more bend before it breaks. I don't know if you can see that, how it just kind of, it just bends. I can feel it's more elastic. But this one tastes, let's taste it in a second. It tastes more peppery, it tastes brighter. It's a little bit like, boom, lighter. Like it just is like at a higher level of brightness. This one is more peppery. I get more of that pepper feel throughout. It's a really good level of salt. This one's excellent. This one cracked, but it did not crack as bad as the other one. I'm gonna say that's probably because of the soaking in the ale process. Maybe? I don't know. I'm making shit up. Back to the fire and smoke. This one does not have the heat, but it has a depth. It's just a lower level of brightness. It's just deeper. It's almost like the addition of ale has helped it to mature faster. Like it's given it greater depth of character than this one. Like this one's just a little bit immature. But this one is actually older and this one's younger, but the ale grew it up. And it doesn't taste boozy. Like some of my cheeses that I put booze in, I feel like they're too boozy. Like it detracts from the flavor of the cheese. This one complements it very well. Oh, you guys, this one was quite the ride. It was really kind of an ordeal and I think it paid off. I don't know how you would eat it. It's kind of standalone. It's like this carries itself. This has personality. So back off, all you other people. Let this baby shine. If you found any of this to be helpful, this whole journey, just give this video a like. It would just be helpful to me to know that it was helpful to you. What a ride. I'm gonna package this up and share it with people. Oh my gosh, you guys, do you see this? Do you see this little cheese right here? What do you see? I got a smiley cheese. This cheese loves me. It's making up after all the harm it caused me. So here's the deal. Toscano Pepato is more creamy and the other one is more elastic. Like that might be the way to define it. I had said I was going to potentially smoke it and I still might, but I also might not. I'm going to just package half of each of them back up and maybe I'll smoke them both later. Maybe we'll just eat them. So that will not be in this video. It might only show up in special edition stuff that's coming soon. Stay tuned.